Sure. Good afternoon. Thank you for taking my call.
Happy to.
So, I'm a relatively new Catholic. This Easter will be my third year since I was confirmed, and I participate online in some different Catholic groups, men's groups, and just Catholic converts groups and things like those. And there seems to be kind of a contingency of what some might call rad trads, like hardcore anti-Vatican II. The only valid form of Mass is the TLO, the traditional, or TLM, excuse me, traditional Latin Mass. People who say that it's, if not heretical, borderline heretical to take the host in your hand as opposed to on your tongue, et cetera.
Jay, we're throwing out a lot of issues here. Is there a particular question you have for me?
I'll get to the point. Absolutely. In what year did Latin become the official language that Mass was given in? Because I don't think it was in, Christ's time or the first 100 years.
No, I think you would be right in that. So, if you give the year that Latin became the official language, you have to give it in like MXC.
Anno Domini. Yeah.
Right.
So the answer is that this was a process. Originally, Jesus said the liturgy in Aramaic, based on the evidence we have, and it then began to be said in other languages as Christianity spread. The first major language other than Aramaic that it would have been said in would have been Greek, which was the major international language in the West. Aramaic was the major international language in the East. Greek was the major international language in the West. And so we have evidence of it being spoken in Greek in the first century. Now, what a lot of people don't realize is even though Latin was the local language in Rome, Greek was extremely common in Rome. Rome was basically a bilingual society. And so you had, because it was managing a worldwide empire, and the language of the empire was Greek. Because that's as a result of Alexander the Great's conquest, everybody all around the place was speaking Greek. So if you, as a Roman, wanted to rule distant people who did know Greek but didn't know Latin, you needed to learn Greek too, so you could communicate with them directly. And so even in Rome, Greek was very widely used. The first converts in Rome, for what we can tell, were Greek-speaking. That's why Paul wrote to them in Greek in the letter to the Romans. He didn't write in Latin. He didn't write in Aramaic. He wrote in Greek because that was the dominant language in the Christian community, even in Rome. And it stayed that way for a few centuries. I don't, off the top of my head, remember exactly when the transition occurred, but it was like in the 200s or 300s when you started to, if memory serves, when you started to get Latin liturgies in Rome. And even then, it was a mix. You'd have some congregations saying it in Greek and some congregations saying it in Latin. It was a slow transition. It wasn't like instantly, as of today, everybody in Rome is saying it in Latin, because not everybody spoke Latin necessarily. And there were visitors and foreigners who didn't. And so it was my understanding is it was a gradual transition even in Rome. And even then, even once the practice became established in Rome, that didn't make it the official mandatory language for the Diocese of Rome or for the Western Church as a whole. That was something that evolved slowly over time. I actually have never seen a document, either ancient or modern, saying Latin must be used for these purposes. That I've never seen anything that says Latin is the official language of the church.
Yeah. Okay.
There might have been such a thing at some point, but certainly today, I think, and this has always been the case, Rome has always recognized the legitimacy of the use of other languages in other parts of the church. If you can go back and I actually find this fascinating. You can go back and read documents in Latin that'll be talking about the way, for example, Chaldean Catholics say the Holy Kurbana. Okay, Kurbana is the Aramaic word for offering, and the Holy Kurbana is the Aramaic term for the Mass.
Okay.
And so, and in Aramaic. And so you have even Latin documents using loan words from Aramaic to talk about how Christians in other parts of the world are legitimately in communion with Rome, celebrating the liturgy. So there's never been a Latin-only policy in the church. The church has always acknowledged the use of Greek in Greek-speaking areas, the use of Aramaic in Aramaic-speaking areas, even if in Rome, Latin became the predominant language and the one that was used in official documents. There was never an exclusion of other Christians who didn't speak Latin in their area having to use Latin.
And we will leave it there. I hope that
At
that
least
was
outside of the West.
I hope that was helpful to you, Jay. We got to take a quick break. We'll be right back with more Open Forum right after this.